welcome to News 6. The program is brought to you this week by the 6th grade at Bethlehem Lutheran School in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Our first stories are about what's happening in school, and here's Rebecca to tell you about it.
Several 6th graders in our class have made stamp collecting a hobby. They have found it to be exciting, interesting, and educational. We are using stamps as an aid while studying South America in social studies class. South American stamps are unique in many ways. The most interesting thing is that they often show us sights that are common to the different countries. Venezuela stamps show sights from the city of Valencia. Guyana and Uruguay stamps show vegetation, birds, statues, Olympiads, and great people. Most stamps are made of paper with ink, pictures, and printing. Some stamps, however, are hard and coated to look three-dimensional. We are really learning two things when we use this educational tool, about South America and about stamps. This is our 6th grade teacher, Mr. Spray. A little strange, huh? This is the way he dresses on a special day called Clash Tuesday. Everybody wears clothes that don't match, like shirts that clash with pants, and even unmatched shoes and socks. We have other fun days, too. We had a day called Colonial Day. All the kids and teachers wore red, white, and blue. Almost every month, we have a day called Spirit Day. On Spirit Day, we wear our school clothes, red and white. At the end of the day, we usually have a pep session. One of the highlights of the year is the day when 8th graders dress like they did in the 1950s, in bobby socks, leather jackets, ponytails, and all the other things they wore back then. Dressing up just makes the school year more interesting and fun. Most elementary schools have the regular sports programs of football and basketball, but we have something different. We have a wrestling program. All the elementary Lutheran schools in Fort Wayne are involved. They are supervised by Mr. Eisen, a coach at a local high school. At first, Mr. Eisen started out with just an intramural program, but soon that became interschool. Mr. Eisen instructs the wrestlers in the fundamentals of the sport. He uses high school wrestlers from our church to help us practice. These boys help the wrestlers with their own techniques. At the end of our 6-week season, a tournament is held between all the Lutheran elementary schools to determine the best wrestler in each weight class. And now to tell you what's happening in our community is Tim.
One of the most interesting landmarks in Fort Wayne is the Embassy Theater. From the outside, the building doesn't look very inviting, but the inside is most magnificent. One of the first things you notice is the large organ. It is one of the few organs of its type left in the world. The music you hear now was played on that pipe organ by Mr. Buddy Nolan, who has played the organ at the Embassy since 1952. He used to give 5 organ performances a day, 7 days a week, and says he knows thousands of songs by heart. He used to give those performances in between movie showings. But the Embassy didn't start as a movie house, as Rick Hammett, the manager of the theater, tells us.
It was built in 1928 as a vaudevillian house. It had silent pictures too, so for about 25 cents you came in and you heard the organ, and they had a small pit band, and they had a silent picture, and they had maybe 2 to 5 acts of vaudeville, maybe a lady with trained dogs, or a stand-up comedian, or a singer. And so for 25 cents you get your money's worth because it was a full evening of entertainment for you.
Many famous people performed at the Embassy, including Bob Hope, Donald O'Connor, Perry Como, and even a circus with an elephant. The Embassy is a beautiful place with a round lighted ceiling and chandeliers that weigh 500 pounds apiece. Recently, the Embassy was doomed to be torn down. However, the citizens of Fort Wayne came to the rescue of this lovely theater. They raised money to have it restored to the glamour and elegance it once had. We also have a building in Fort Wayne that brings back history, but much earlier history. It is historic Fort Wayne, which is a duplicate of the first fort built in Indiana in 1794 as protection from the Indians. The recent fort was built in 1976 near the exact spot of the original fort at the junction of the St. Mary's, St. Joe, and Maumee rivers. Historic Fort Wayne is built in the form of a square and follows the original drawings, plans, and reports as nearly as possible. The fort complex comprises 11 log buildings, including 2 blockhouses and cannons, and muskets were kept and fired through slits and holes in the walls when attacked by Indians. A glimpse may be had of life as it was lived by soldiers and settlers on the Indiana frontier of 1816. The fort is staffed by peoples in costumes who demonstrate crafts, daily activities, military drill, and the use of muskets and cannons. To go to the historic Fort Wayne is like stepping back into time. To bring us up to the present, here's David.
Have you ever seen a stained glass window? If you have, perhaps it was made by City Glass of Fort Wayne. This company has been making stained glass windows for churches, homes, and businesses for 34 years. Many people don't appreciate the beauty or understand how much work is required to make a stained glass window. News 6 went to the City Glass building, and we'd like to show you just what it takes to make a stained glass window. First, an artist must design the window. Then another artist colors it in, picking the precise colors that glass will fill later. Next, a full-size drawing is made that shows the pattern distinctly. The pattern is cut out, and the correct color of glass is selected for each part in the pattern. The pattern is placed over the glass, and each piece of glass is cut to the correct size. Then all parts of the glass are laid in place and lead is put completely around each piece. Then someone cements the glass in place by soldering the lead. Then the entire window is waterproofed by spreading a solution over the glass and under the leading. After all these steps, a stained glass window is finished. In one window alone, there may be as many as 10,000 pieces of glass, and each piece must be handled 15 times in the process of making a window. This means that the glass will be handled 150,000 times. From what you have just seen and heard about the steps in making a stained glass window, you can understand why there are only a few companies in the United States that make stained glass windows.
Thank you for joining us today on News 6, which was brought to you by the class of Mr. Raymond Spray and Mr. Carl Teese at Bethlehem Lutheran School in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Next week, News 6 will be produced by the 6th grade at St. Aloysius School in Bowling Green. Have a great week.